Ian, how's it been received from the people that you've been speaking to within the industry?
Well, I think this is a seismic development. As Mark said, you mentioned there have been whiffs of problems for Manchester City and about breaches of financial regulations in the past. I think they were banned for 2 years from the Champions League, but then were cleared in the Court of Arbitration. They don't have that route this time, although they can drag this, I suspect, with their top lawyers through the courts and various appeal processes for quite a long time. But I think it's massively serious, and the feeling you get is that there will be a massive punishment for Manchester City if they are found guilty. And we need to stress, we shouldn't be prejudging this yet. Let's see what the Commission decides. Let's see what the facts actually turn out to be. But if they're guilty, I would not like to see titles in the past reassigned. You don't want things being decided in a boardroom, but they could quite easily be relegated from the Premier League.
So a bad 48 hours for Manchester City, of course, not only off the pitch, but on it as well after that 1-0 defeat against Spurs. Mark, what are you hearing? What's going on at City? Why are they not good at the moment?
Well, I mean, there's a variety of reasons. Obviously, the Cancelo situation highlighted some cracks in the dressing room. There's a lot of players that aren't playing as often as they should be. I don't think Kyle Walker, Phil Foden will be overjoyed at how much game time they've had recently. I think, Pep Guardiola's been there for nearly 7 years now, and he's an intense coach. And maybe the players are thinking, well, it's too much in the sense that this kind of intense, on your case, demand for perfection all the time. I think you look at people like Jurgen Klopp, who's having a tough time at Liverpool, but I think he's more of a players manager. I think he's more empathetic at times what the players need. I think with Guardiola there's less of that. He's also lost his assistant manager. We know that Juan Milillo left the club last summer. Pep hasn't really replaced him. So who's there to say no to Pep? Who's there to disagree with Pep and say, Pep, take a step back? So maybe that's an issue as well. And I think that, Erling Haaland is another issue that, as great as a centre forward that he is, he's changed the way that City play, and he's made them in some ways easier to defend against because they only have one way of playing now. So I think, maybe Haaland, is a great striker, but they haven't scored any more goals. They've got exactly the same amount of goals after so many games this season as last season. So the City are more predictable. So a lot of factors, but they're still in the title race to get Arsenal away next week. But I do think that it's beginning to look like things are beginning to slide at City, and what's happened in the last couple of days has made it even worse, because if you're Pep Guardiola, your team's not winning, and you face the prospects of all your amazing achievements over the last few years, spend the life with an asterisk next to them from now on.
It's interesting, isn't it, with this Manchester City side? We've seen them have dips, as most top teams have in the past, but they come out of them very quickly and then hit the ground running. On this occasion, I'd be very, very reluctant to say, yeah, they're going to go on one of those runs, given what we've seen over recent weeks. Yeah,
they're not the team they were. They just seem to be lacking something. Maybe this team has... When a lot of the players signed for Man City under Pep Guardiola, it was to win things. It was to go to Pep and to win things. But all these players have won things now, and maybe the drive they had when they went to City to play for Guardiola, to accept the methods, his demanding methods, maybe they're thinking, well, I've won everything now. I don't need this kind of approach anymore. I need to be a bit more relaxed even. Kevin De Bruyne wasn't even playing at the weekend. So he's making some very strange decisions in terms of tactics, in selection. So it just feels like there's a bit of an end coming, but that would be foolish to write Pep Guardiola and City off. But it does feel like that things aren't quite right, and it's not a happy camp right now. But it wouldn't be, because they're not winning games.
Does that resonate with you? Like, you won 5 league titles, and you've always said, when we've discussed it in the past, it's really hard to go out there and defend a title, to have that same sort of motivation. So does what Mark said kind of resonate in that it's harder to motivate a team that's already won?
No, it is, and I actually agree with Mark about the micromanagement part of it. Certainly when you've won trophies and you get a little bit more experience, then yes, it becomes harder to motivate yourself. I don't think anybody can argue with that. There'll be times where you have to give yourself a little shake. But the micromanagement stuff, I 100% can see it getting on the experienced guys' backs. The other thing
it's Pep, isn't it? I can't imagine Pep relaxing. It's just who he is, isn't he?
Listen, there's nothing wrong with micromanaging for a period of time, but when you do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 7 or 8 years, that's going to get on players. Right. No question. You can keep players on their toes without chirping at them every 2 seconds of the day. I think the other thing, and one of the biggest reasons, is they're not using Haaland properly. Mm-hmm. There's no question they're not looking to play the ball in behind early enough, if at all. And that's a huge weapon. So Players are maybe a little unhappy with the manager, the fact that they're not capitalising on what Haaland has, as much as he has fantastic traits.
Yeah.
The one he has that's going to help them, they're not using it.
It's bonkers, isn't it, Ian? 25 goals he's got in the Premier League, yet we're questioning whether or not City are better with or without him.
Well, yeah, I mean, heaven help defences when he starts to be used properly by Manchester City. But, I mean, it is a fact, I think. I don't think he even had a touch in the opposition box at Tottenham. I mean, that's really quite an incredible stat. And he looked as if he was a stranger, isolated from the other players. He was making runs. He wasn't getting the ball. So, I mean, he's going to end up getting 60 goals a season when they learn to play with him. But, yeah, I mean, I agree with Mark, and I think it's a generally held view now that things aren't quite right at Manchester City at the moment. The Cancelo sudden departure to Bayern Munich was a little telltale sign. Not picking Kevin De Bruyne for a huge game like Tottenham away, where they had the chance to cut Arsenal's lead. And then that strange quote from Pep Guardiola moaning about it takes 4 hours and 20 minutes to get to London and I'm tired. I mean, when did they ever moan about that before? So just at the moment, things are not quite right with Manchester City, but I wouldn't be in quite such a hurry to write them off. They are just as likely to bounce back probably sometime soon.
Stevie just mentioned the word micromanaging, right? It's also what players you're micromanaging.
Right.
Not every player is going to be or should be treated the same, because not every player reacts to certain tactics the same way. Some players need the micromanagement. Other players need the space. Other players, you just leave them alone because, again, they need that space to be who they are and to express themselves on the field. What I'm getting the sense here from Manchester City, and we've been in thousands of locker rooms, it feels like this guy is on top of everybody right now all the time. And when you see the expression of Kevin De Bruyne sitting on the bench in a big game, just kind of bored there, just like, I can't believe I'm out here. Why am I sitting here? It shows me that this is a guy that right now is going head-to-head with Pep Guardiola. And Pep Guardiola, given his success, and given the fact that part of that success comes from his stubbornness, he's not going to let this go. It's going to be my way, or it's not going to be. I don't think this is the way to operate with a team that has so much talent and so much experience. And to the point about Erling Haaland, as a striker, who was, as compared to Erling Haaland, I was as limited as you can possibly be in the striker position in comparison to that level. But man, if I'm making runs, play me the ball. One time, play me the ball, because that's what motivates me. The idea and the hope that I can get in behind the defenders with a chance to score a goal. Just give me something. Throw me a bone.
Oh, my God.
Just something. Because I'm going to keep moving for you as long as you keep me motivated. But if the ball is not coming, then I start coming towards you. I start coming towards the ball because I want to get involved. And you're not involving me in the play. Now, if that were happening with me, is one thing. But it's happening with perhaps the best out-and-out striker that we have in the world right now, and you're not using him. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.